You dude, Orrin here. This is the primetime preview for Monday Night Football with the Cleveland Browns going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to try to make these videos shorter because I'm tired of them like being like 30 minutes long when I've intended them to be like 10 minutes long all the time. So I'm making a couple of changes to these videos and hopefully they work out better. The categories I'm going to be giving check marks to are offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and rookie contracts, and then a final verdict or a win. I'm taking away like the player I want to highlight for each thing for each category, and then instead I'm just going to do like just go over which team has what kind of a rookies they have on rookie deals and that sort of thing. So I figured I might be able to talk about those things quicker, and they'll make the research process much quicker than for this, because the purpose of me doing these videos is to kind of give a brief overview on how what to expect with each of these teams tonight. Just like a paper cheat sheet summary type of thing, like give you a brief information to be able to digest super quickly like that. And then I'll probably talk about like the coaches more informally too, just like anybody who stands out, and it won't be based on like too much on research and everything. So all that being said, let's get into it. The stats will be much briefer too. I just looked at their average yards yards per game from last season, and I'll start to look at this season's stats after week 3. I like to do everything in segments of 3-week periods, so that way we can kind of get a better view of what we're talking about, because week 1 and week 2 is still way too early for a bunch of stuff. So anyways, offense. As far as average yards per game overall, Cleveland ranked 14th last year, while Pittsburgh ranked 23rd. Average rushing yards per game, Cleveland Browns ranked 6th, while Pittsburgh ranked 16th. And then average passing yards per game, Cleveland was 22nd, and Pittsburgh was 24th, which is pretty close there. I'd say, given the fact that Cleveland's overall yards was much higher, ranked significantly in the league, and not to mention the fact that they have one of the best running backs in the game and one of the best offensive lines in the game, if not the best in both those categories, which is a very important step one when building a really good offense. I'll give the check mark to Cleveland here. All right, defense, same thing, except for like yards allowed, average yards allowed per game. So Cleveland Browns ranked for average yards per game overall, ranked 14th last year, while Pittsburgh ranked 13th last season. Rushing yards allowed, Cleveland was 25th, ranked 25th, and Pittsburgh ranked 9th. And for passing yards allowed, Cleveland ranked 5th, while Pittsburgh ranked 19th. Given that these days it's a passing league, and the ability to be able to do better against passing and giving up fewer passing yards instead of rushing yards, and Cleveland has the significantly higher ranking in that area, I will give the defense check mark to Cleveland. Special teams. Instead of referencing that article from before, I just kind of looked at some of the statistics there, like average for kick return and punt returns, which in my opinion is the most important thing for special teams. And then I looked at field goal percentage as icing on the cake. So kick returns for Cleveland, they ranked 15th average yards per game for kick return, and then Pittsburgh ranked 24th last year. Punt return average per game, Cleveland ranked 12th, while Pittsburgh ranked 29th. And then field goal percentage, both these teams were toward the bottom of the league. Cleveland ranked 30th and Pittsburgh ranked 29th. Considering how Cleveland was at least middle of the pack in the returns for special teams and kick returns and punt returns, I will give the check mark to Cleveland. Coaches, as far as Pittsburgh's concerned, they have Mike Tomlin. He's been there for a long time. They've never had a losing record under him. They have a Super Bowl championship with him and some other Super Bowl appearances. And, he's a very old school coach. We objectively, as NFL fans, talk about him as one of the best in the game right now. And we highly respect him for it. But as I found out last week, I guess some of the more subjective diehard Steelers fans, they are kind of fed up with him a little bit in terms of who he keeps around and how he doesn't really make that many changes and adjustments. A little too old school for them. Like they think their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, is not a good offensive coordinator, and he still has a job there, and he shouldn't. So that's something to keep in mind with that. And for the Cleveland Browns, I had to look up who their head coach was because I had no idea. And it's Kevin Stefanski, who before he came to Cleveland 2020, he spent like a decade or so in various positions with the Minnesota Vikings before eventually working his way up to offensive coordinator for the Vikings in 2019. So I believe that was around the time Mike Zimmer was the head coach there, but he's more of an offensive-minded person, a tight ends coach, a running backs coach, quarterbacks coach. He's done a little bit of everything there, and then got hired for the Cleveland Browns in 2020. And one other thing I noticed, Jim Schwartz, this is a name Lions fans will remember, the former Lions head coach back when we first made the playoffs in like the 2011, 2012, those years, and really put an emphasis on having a really good defensive line. And he has good defense schemes for like the defensive lines to give them an advantage and that sort of thing. He did some good things for us at the time when he was over there. And he was also the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles when they won the Super Bowl back during the 2017-2018 season. I believe that was the year, and he was with them for that. So defenses tend to rank higher in the league once Jim Schwartz takes over as the defensive coordinator and helps them out with those roles there too. So in my opinion, he's still a really good coach, a really good defensive coordinator. So given everything I said, I think I'll give the coaching advantages to Cleveland. I'll gloss over the rookie contracts that I'm aware of for each team real quick. So a couple of years ago, they had a linebacker, Jeremiah Azawoma. I think that's how you say his name. And, he was one of the better linebacker prospects in the draft. And from what I've heard, remember, he's doing all right there. And then this past draft, they haven't had a first round pick in a couple of years or so because of the Deshaun Watson trade. They traded them to the Houston Texans in order to get that quarterback. And but this past year, I thought they did a pretty good job with some of the people that they did draft. They drafted Cedric Tillman, whose best skill is being able to do contested catches. They got Siaki Ika, who's or Ika, however you say it. He's a big-bodied nose tackle, defensive line type who should be able to help stuff the run. And then, who was the last one? Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a quarterback, and he who has a dual threat potential apparently there. And then Pittsburgh, they've last few years, they got Najee Harris a few drafts ago. They got Kenny Pickett, and then they got George Pickens, who's a physical, wide receiver type. And, he's who you want for, contested catches and that sort of thing as well, help stretch the field, that sort of thing. And then this past draft, they wound up going and getting Broderick Jones to help with the offensive line, one of the better offensive line prospects in the draft in the first round. They traded up to get him, actually. Joey Porter Jr., who's the son of Joey Porter, was with the Steelers, and he, probably as a kid was around the facilities whenever he got a chance to. So he's coming back home, similar to Kenny Pickett, who went to college in Pittsburgh. So Keanu Benton, who's another a really good defensive line prospect from this past draft. has better upside in terms of pass rush and can help defend against the run too. And then Darnell Washington, who is a highly coveted tight end by a lot of people, who is really a super huge, freakish type of dude who's specializes in run blocking, but can also kind of be a good catch target in the if in the end zone, but mainly known for his blocking. But he fell in the draft too because he had a medical concern. So I'll give this check mark overall for the Steelers. So I mean, Cleveland hasn't had a first round pick in however long. So all that factored in, I first started this thinking Pittsburgh would have the easy advantage, but the more I learned about Cleveland, the more I think they might just be the better team. So, and I'll just say this right now, before the season started, I picked Pittsburgh to be my second favorite team, the team to follow when not following the Lions. But if Cleveland impresses me enough in this game and they blow out the Steelers, then I'm gonna switch that second favorite team to being Cleveland, in spite of the fact that they have Deshaun Watson and everything he allegedly did before he was traded. So my brain and my logic is based on everything. I'm saying that Cleveland will probably get the win and make Pittsburgh go down to 0-2, and Cleveland will probably be one of the surprise teams. And I picked them last place in a previous video, and I didn't before I knew anything about them. But I'm thinking Cleveland might win this game, but I can't wait to find out what happens there. So Monday Night Football tonight. There is another game, New Orleans at Carolina, but this game is also taking place tonight as well. Catch this game at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch it on ABC or ESPN Plus. That's all I have for now, and until next time, go Lions, one pride.